Well, Timothy Kirkhope, is this Rwanda scheme and what it might or might not achieve really worth wasting all the angst and agony the Conservative Party are putting themselves through at the moment?
Well, I mean, speaking as a former immigration minister, it would not be my priority. And indeed, I think, as the Home Secretary made clear, it's only one tool from a toolbox that has many other possibilities of controlling and dealing with immigration. And from my own personal point of view, I would much prefer us to be using those other tools rather than getting into what undoubtedly is a very complicated area dealing with Rwanda. As well. And costly, I quite agree. But of course the government has to show responsibility and it has to show that it is able to control immigration. I think that undoubtedly is a wish of the people of this country, even though the way in which we achieve it is not always fully agreed.
Timothy Kirkhope, doesn't the government look more and more dysfunctional? This is the danger here. That we're going to have more votes on this, there's going to be more arguments, and the party's going to be bogged down in this.
Well, Parliament is there to have arguments. I've had a few arguments myself in the House of Lords recently.
No, but governments are there to lead and get things done, aren't they?
That's absolutely true, of course, and I think in many ways they are. I mean, I think the autumn statement of the Chancellor was extremely important, and we hear sort of references from the Labour Party, vague references as to what they may or may not do if they were in power. But I think the important thing is that, and I think we're discussing this today also, the question of the economy, which is undoubtedly important.
Flatlining.
Well, I think productivity could be improved. I'm disappointed, I have to admit, in the productivity in this country. But if you look at the autumn statement of the Chancellor in terms of injecting more money in to help those who are in need of help, I think he's done an extremely good job. I mean, the trouble is the Labour Party clearly weren't present when the autumn statement was made by the Chancellor. Otherwise, they would have realised not only do we increase almost all the benefits that you could give to help those who are more vulnerable, universal credit, for instance, the pension was increased, the minimum wage was increased, housing allowances were increased. Goodness sake, I mean, the Labour Party have got lots of sort of statements that they're making, but there's nothing very clear about what they might do in power. That's the big risk for the people of this country.
Nobody's better off, though, are they? That's the problem.
Well,
certainly not.
Of course, if you increase allowances dramatically in the way that has been done by the autumn statement, then inevitably you are minimising the suffering and minimising the pressure on people, which is really responsible.
We are going. Look, Kirkhope, I mean, obviously you talked earlier about what was in the autumn statement in terms of uprating benefits and the minimum wage. But the fact is that this comes after years and years of pretty harsh conditions, and we see there the level of poverty, food bank use. We saw the human face of it in Helen Richardson's film. That's a badge of shame for your party, isn't it?
I think whenever people are under pressure like that, I think it's something that all politicians should be concerned about and do their best to help. But I do think that it's not responsible simply to argue, as the Labour Party does, for instance, that they're going to put the money everywhere. Loads of money will be provided because, frankly, they don't have any clue as to how they're going to get that money together.
Sorry,
I think most people, I'm doing that talking. I think it's very important that they have to be honest with the people about it.
Well, we'll ask about that, but tell that to people who are struggling to heat needs, people who are struggling to, miserable Christmases. You've heard the people there.
I've just explained, though, that in the autumn statement we've increased all these benefits because we're taking
years,
into account
the universal credit uplift was taken away.
Also, at the same time, inflation, which of course is the biggest killer. Inflation is really the killer, and we have to get that down. And we've succeeded. The Prime Minister succeeded in doing that. But of course, we'd love to do more. I mean, the current social care bill in this country is £276 billion, and it's been increasing every single year under the Conservative Party. I think if the Labour Party are talking in this way, it's easy talk, of course, to attack. I can see that, and we don't want people to suffer.
Let's hear from Ella
McAvoy. Let's have the details.
I mean, the crucial point is
I've been around too long to be too excited by that, I have to say.
Oh, it's a shame that you're cynical on the Christmas show.
£1 billion from a windfall tax against a total spend of £276 billion currently on social care. I mean, come on, I think they've got to be realistic.
The problem is, I mean, I accept the bills are huge, and some of the cost of living payments, obviously a lot of money has been spent, and it has helped at times.
And will be,
but of course a lot of that, apart from the very poorest, that's been withdrawn now, and yet prices are still going up.
Yes.
Energy bills, because the help has been withdrawn, as high as they have ever been, effectively, in terms of the impact on people. You want to either better target things. The fact that people are borrowing to to pay for their bills. That's really worrying, because that's a long-term legacy, isn't it?
I think there are people who are suffering in our society, as there probably always have been, and I fear
your
always
message
will.
appears to be that we can't spend any more.
Well, we are spending more. That's the point I'm trying to get across, Richard. We are actually spending more. We've got 10% increases in almost all these allowances, and we've got a much more focused caring operation. We had a debate in the House of Lords just this last week. The Archbishop of Canterbury and others were involved. And we had a debate, a really genuine debate, about how we could actually look after people better. And I have to say that I think that our ministers and our attitude is a caring one. I don't like the tag that because we're Conservatives, for instance, we're hard on people. I think we're trying to help people, bring people along as best we can.
Okay. Well, Timothy Kirkhope, for most pubs, the community buyout probably won't work because it requires quite a lot of commitment from people. We've got to stop them closing in the first place is the key thing, isn't it?
I think there's two sides to it. I wish this wasn't so much a party political issue, because I think in many ways the factors involved here are rather wider than just party politics. We all want to see our pubs thrive, and I'm very pleased that our planning rules have been amended to make sure that, certainly with new communities, pubs are as much a necessity or regarded as important as any other social facilities. So that's one thing.
And it's the community asset legislation, actually, to be fair, that has allowed pubs to be saved a lot of the time.
No,
that's what's stopping the offer one being sold.
Gentleman from Canberra there, I mean, Canberra will tell you, obviously, that people where community pubs have been opened, I think hardly any of them have failed.
Only one out of 160 in the country has ever closed.
A brilliant initiative, I agree. But it does show a real desire by the people in those communities to have a pub. Sadly, I'm afraid to say that there is a change in social habits in a lot of places. People have not been supportive of their local pubs when they have been available. Business rates have been discounted, but there's other things you can do, of course. And
well, the energy bills we heard specifically
I just wish, though, this is one of those things where I don't really want to see it become a massive political issue.
Okay, right. But there are political decisions.
One of
the political decisions is there was a cap placed, there was help initially for businesses on energy prices. Again, a bit like, the people we saw struggling individuals.
I agree.
That's gone.
Yes, and I think we need to review that. I would say the government needs to do more from the point of view of helping community facilities, particularly, whether it's actually restoration of buildings through VAT or whether it's issues to do with pubs. But we want to keep our pubs, of course we do.